I think I got it. Okay. I've got about 1 more minute, so just give people a couple more minutes to get on. Now go ahead and take a roll.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can. We get started here in just a minute. So, Amber, if we're ready, looks like we do have a quorum, but I'm just going to go read the participant list so we know everyone that's on. Just as I see it here. Starting with Jeff Borchardt with the City of Reno. He just disappeared. Hopefully he's still there. Oh, I see.
Here.
Shuffled. Yes, thank you. Lissa Butterfield, Reno Tahoe Airport Authority. Mike
I'm
Michelle. Okay, Mike Michelle, City of Reno. Daniel Inoue with Washoe County Health District, Air Quality Management Division. Amber Sosa, City of Sparks. Armando Ornelas, City of Sparks. Chris Tolley, TMRPA.
Here.
Enos Hahn, FHWA. Let's see, John Flansburgh with the City of Reno as well.
I'm here.
Kevin Very with NDOT. Thank you. Kurt Dietrich, also with City of Reno. Mitch Fink with Washoe County.
I'm here.
Okay. Mike Boster, Washoe County School District. Tara Smaltz, NDOT District 2.
Here.
And I believe that's all of our TAC members. Everyone else is RTC staff on the line. So, Amber, if you want to go ahead and get it started, we do have a quorum. We are recording. Just wanted to let you know, and this is being also being broadcast to RTC's YouTube page.
Great, thank you. We'll call to order the July 1st, 2020 meeting of RTC TAC. Item number 1, approval of the agenda. Hopefully you guys got to look at it. Anybody willing to make a motion?
Chris Tolley, TMRPA, so moved.
Thank you, Chris. Looking for a second.
Kurt Dietrich, City of Reno, second.
Thank you, Kurt. Anybody have any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Our agenda is approved. Item number 2, public comment. Do we have anybody for public comment?
Amber, we did receive one public comment in advance, so I'm going to read that into the record right now. This came from Andrew Samuelson with Truckee Meadows Bicycle Alliance. And he said, as part of the RTP 2050, please include projects that would complete a network of cycle tracks in central Reno. The cycle tracks should interconnect, be physically separated from cars, and be safe for riders from 8 to 80 years old to use. An example network may include Audi Wells, Center Street, North Sierra Street, 9th to North McCarran, Sutro/Locust/Kerman, and in parentheses, North McCarran to Plum, Mary Street, Virginia to Plumas, Plumas Street, Mary to Moana, Vassar Street, Virginia to Terminal, and 7th Street, West McCarran to UNR. This network would have a very small effect on car capacity and parking, but would provide very large capacity for bikers of all ages. This network could be built quickly and cheaply. RTP 2050 survey results show a desire for bicycle infrastructure over any other projects, including traffic congestion projects.
Presume that you're talking about
And
dedicated
that is it.
storm drain channel.
Great, thank you, Dan. With that, we will move on to item number 3, election of officers for fiscal year 2021.
Thank you, Amber. So this is an annual ritual, and we do have all the member jurisdictions, those being the city of Reno, city of Sparks, and Washoe County, taking turns at chair and vice chair on a rotating basis. And so obviously, Amber, it's the city of Sparks is our current chair. So that rotation will then next go to the city of Reno. And I believe Jeff Borchardt is going to be the chair, the representative for the city of Reno. And vice chair then will go to Washoe County. And it's my understanding, although I don't think she's present today, but that Julie Olander will be taking over the duty as vice chair. And really just, I think we just need a motion to approve the election of officers.
Perfect. Is anybody willing to make a motion for the new officers?
This is Armando Ornelas for the City of Sparks. I move to appoint Jeff Borchardt as chair of the committee and Julie Olander as vice chair.
Thank you, Armando. Do we have a second?
It's Finkus Washoe County second.
Thank you, Tara and Rich. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Perfect, it passes. And Jeff, this is now your meeting.
Yes, thank you for passing the torch, Amber. We will move on to item number 4, the recommend approval for proposed revisions to the RTC TAC Statement of Purpose, Objectives, and Procedures. Dan, I don't know if you wanted to present about the attachments that you included.
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. So as probably most of the members recall, at a previous meeting, I think it was maybe 2 months ago, we had talked about possibly moving the regularly scheduled meeting time for this TAC committee. Largely, there was seemed to be a recurring conflict with the City of Reno City Council meetings. And so kind of an informal poll at the time, it looked like moving this meeting to the first Thursday of every month, keeping the same time at 9 a.m. would work for most people. That does call for a change to our policies because it is written in there. And so when we were just kind of reviewing those, looking for any other updates, I was suggesting, or staff was suggesting, to not only address the meeting time, but also look at potential other changes as well. And so everyone should have, as an attachment in their packets, I'm going to pull it up though, just in case on the screen, so we can all going to be looking at the same page here. Bear with me just a second. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, was everyone able to see this?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's showing up.
Okay, thank you. So as I mentioned, we, under the procedures section, we address the first Thursday of every month as opposed to the first Wednesday. However, we did look at a couple other items on here. And I don't want to go through it verbatim, but basically you can see what we are proposing to change as well. Just wanted to update it to kind of keep this, these policies a little more relevant with kind of the purview of this group and what it is we're looking to accomplish. And I'd be happy to, I guess, answer any questions. And also just to confirm, as I mentioned, we did do kind of an informal poll to see if the new proposed meeting time would work, but just want to confirm that that will indeed work with everyone in this committee.
Does anybody have any questions before request a motion? All right, so seeing no questions, can I get a motion to approve the proposed revisions to the TAC statement of purpose, objectives, and procedures?
This is Amber Sosa. I'll make a motion.
I'm sorry, Jeff, this is Armando Ornelas.
Yeah.
And I started to speak up and I didn't realize I had muted myself.
Oh, sorry.
Before Amber makes a motion, I guess I had a question about the changes to proposed objective 4. It seems like it really dilutes the purpose of the TAC and the lack of specificity there in terms of what they're to do in terms of reviewing projects, programs, and services, and the elimination of the consideration of air quality, explicit consideration of air quality impacts is a concern to me. So I guess I'm wondering why we're proposing to make this change.
Right.
Sure, that's a fair question. And I think a lot of it was to do with just built in with the federal regulations that we do have to develop a regional transportation plan and also a regional transportation improvement program that do both meet transportation conformity. And really not to, I guess, take away from, the input from this committee, but regardless, that is something that we are federally required to do. And I think really the focus of this committee would be more to kind of direct what those transportation improvement projects and programs are. We have to ensure that however we select or prioritize those, that they do indeed meet transportation conformity in order to have a valid and legitimate plan.
Well, I understand that, but I think, specifically calling for this committee to prioritize projects is still important. So I would object to that change.
Okay.
So
And
Dan,
like,
let me
again, these are
jump in.
just proposals, so we can certainly keep the wording in there. Are there any other discussion on
Dan?
this?
So Dan, I wanted to respond to what Armando was saying. I think what you said is true, is we have to deal with air quality. That's part of the mandate we have for the federal money. My only concern is that given the fact that the way we're structured regionally, the district health department is the agency that's responsible for air quality. So we don't want to create confusion and overlap when we talk as regional partners, like who owns what space. So maybe the wording needs to be changed, but at the end of the day, air quality, we've decided as a region, as a Washoe County Health Department, as the agency that owns it. So to have it confused like RTC is responsible for air quality, I think doesn't add clarity. It actually makes things more confusing and results in probably less effective engagement. But at the end of the day, we are not dropping air quality as a major weight or a component of what we decide to do in transportation. It's just our role as transportation. So that's where I see the clarity is helpful. And I'm always a fan of trying to be clear and not confuse things so people get frustrated because they think a group or an agency is doing something that it really isn't charged to do. So that would be my pitch for getting clarity on the air quality rule.
Well, Bill, I respectfully disagree. I think that it doesn't, the existing language doesn't really confuse the roles at all. It simply calls for RTC to consider air quality impacts in its prioritization of projects, programs, and services. But you know, that's my view at any rate.
I think too, the thought was, Armando, that, that is one element of several. We consider safety, we consider congestion, which obviously is tied to air quality. We consider just pavement condition, a lot of the things that we brought to this body earlier in terms of how we prioritize project. I think it felt like we were maybe singling out air quality and maybe putting that, on a higher weighting than maybe some of the other things we consider, which didn't want to give any false pretense that, that was, again, that's just one of several criteria that we do kind of weigh things against. But, I'd leave it up to the purview of the committee to decide what would be best here. And happy to hear some more discussion.
Amber, do you want to change your motion at all?
Yes, I do. I'd like to pull it back until we can figure out what is best to support on this one.
Okay. Now that the motion's off the table, does anybody want to make a motion to adopt this as is, or bring in Armando's changes?
Well, I'm willing to make a motion that we table the consideration of these changes to the policy until, the next meeting of the TAC. Or if there's a desire to get this approved now so that we can change the meeting date, then I would, I can certainly propose to approve with the changes, except for the changes to Objective 4. So Dan, I guess the question to you would be: do you want the meeting date changed as of today's meeting, or and if so, I'm willing to make the motion to approve without the changes to 4.
Dan, do you need the meeting date changed so that it doesn't conflict? I think, are we in gap right now for council? I think we're in the gap month for council.
So RTC staff is willing to do whatever I guess would suit the TAC members the best. I would say, that's correct, Armando. If we did table this, then obviously if we met in August, we'd have to probably meet again on that first Wednesday. So whenever this is passed in whatever form, that's when we can initiate the kind of the first Thursday of the month. So I just keep that in mind, I guess, when looking ahead at everyone's schedules from, their other duties.
If I may, I'd like to propose an alternate wording change to number 2 there. To maybe change it to provide and comment on regional transportation planning documents, including but not limited to the RTP, the RT, which include air quality conformity, the short range transit plan, and corridor studies. And that way we're reflecting the air quality is a required element of the RTP and the RTIP. So it is going to automatically come to this body for consideration, including that air quality conformity analysis. So that's still reflected here. But I think kind of also reflects the fact that we don't necessarily get too involved in developing air quality plans as a standalone document. As Bill said, that would be the purview of the health district. What we do is the air quality conformity determination on the transportation plans. Would that be satisfactory to the members of the TAC?
Amy, this is Armando. From my perspective, that would address the air quality issue adequately. I'm actually more concerned about maintaining the TAC's role in terms of specifically reviewing for prioritization and expenditure of funds for projects. So that that first part of that strikeout, the prioritization and proposed expenditure of funds. That's actually my bigger concern.
Okay, and that's, I would say you're still doing that when you review the RTP and the TIP, because that's what those documents do, is prioritize the proposed expenditure of funds. But we can certainly look at a different wording for that as well.
Well, what about if I put this motion on the table that we review or that we approve the changes to this document, leaving alone objective 4 in section 2. And then if RTC staff want to bring back another proposed change to address that section, they can do so at a subsequent meeting.
So Armando, your motion is to adopt with the exception of objectives 2 and 4 and come back and revisit that at the next TAC meeting.
No,
which would then be rescheduled.
I'm sorry, Jeff, just with the leaving objective 4 in section 2 intact.
Intact.
Yep. So all the rest of the changes would be approved.
Correct. And not coming back and revisiting, or coming back and revisiting those 2 points at the next TAC meeting?
We can come back and revisit those points. That's fine.
Okay. Can I get a second from somebody?
Chris Tolley, TMRPA, I'll second that.
All right. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, so the motion passes. On to agenda item 5, which is to receive direction on the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan, call for projects, and this one's also for possible action. I know, Dan, you have a presentation on this one, so if you want to share your screen.
Thank you. Let's see if I can get this going here. There we go. Okay. Actually, this is a pretty good segue into what we were just discussing, because we are, as we do with every update, we're looking to this body to provide direction for other projects and programs to consider. I'm going to figure out how to minimize everyone's picture here so I can actually see the slides. Sorry about that. So that's kind of the phase we're in right now with the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan. We are looking to get feedback from this group as well as the public on any projects or other programs or services that we should be considering is for inclusion into the 2050 RTP. We currently have a public meeting. It's an online virtual public meeting. We've had pretty good success with some other projects we've done in this format. I'm not really sure what the views are. If any RTC staff member does know, please feel free to jump in. But it's about a 5-minute video. It's on our website and kind of explaining what the RTP is and, you know, kind of the phase we're in right now. We also have an online survey through the MetroQuest format that's up and running. That's going through July 20th. And I checked this morning, as of this morning, we had about 36 participants. So we're getting the word out. It's kind of ebbing and flowing as far as participants per day. And certainly we want your input today as a TAC, but obviously, you know, some of this takes a bit of thought. And so really over the next month, we're, you know, feel free to reach out to me or Amy or any of us individually with any ideas or for consideration over the next, like I said, few weeks here. I think a lot of you are familiar with this, but kind of the universe of where we draw on these projects for consideration. It's certainly projects that are suggested by the community. Obviously, we pride ourselves on our public outreach and we really do want to engage them. It's looks a little different this time around, just given our current situation. But like I said, we have had some pretty good success so far with some of the kind of the pre-recorded virtual online meetings. Certainly actually more that we get in a workshop, I think, because people can kind of view things at their own leisure or when they have time. We're also, considering what we already have in the 2040 RTP. Obviously, some projects have been implemented, which we're quite proud of, and others are in the works. But we're looking to see if what's in the current 2040 RTP is on a project by project basis. That's still valid and relevant for consideration into the 2050 RTP as well. And then kind of since our last adoption of the RTP and through the development of this one, we've had a number of studies and area studies and corridor plans that we've looked at and have gotten some additional recommendations for some transportation improvements, and those are kind of listed below there. But we had the South Meadows multimodal transportation study and the University Area multimodal transportation study, which I'll be touching on here a little bit later in the presentation. We're also currently, we completed our ADA transition plan. We're currently underway with our coordinated human services transportation plan, which really looks at pretty much the universe of transportation providers. So think like, paratransit trips, other transit providers for medical trips, those sort of things, and looking at how efforts could be maybe consolidated and efficiencies could be realized, and kind of looking out through the broader region. We have an RFP out. We've received a couple proposals that are under review right now for our advanced mobility study, which is kind of looking at, it's kind of two-part. We're looking at alternative fuels going forward, what the fleet might look like, and electrification. But we're also looking at technologies and just the consideration of, micromobility, and just all the different mobility modes that are popping up in other areas and what that might mean for the Truckee Meadows. And then we have a couple kind of pending corridor studies on Mount Rose Highway and McCarran Boulevard. We're partnering with NDOT on these. Actually, RTC will take the lead for the McCarran Boulevard study, and NDOT's taking the lead on the Mount Rose Highway study, but we're very much working in tandem with NDOT on these, and they're just sort of getting kicked off as well. Probably won't be complete before the RTP is finalized, but we're hoping to draw as much information as we can while those studies are underway. Just quickly, there's a couple projects that I alluded to that are under development right now that were in the 2040 RTP. So I think most of you are familiar with the work that's going on in Sun Valley Boulevard. We're looking at design considerations right now for the Center Street cycle track, and the Oddie Wells design's moving right along too. So just shows a kind of all the projects that have been considered in the 2040 RTP. So as I mentioned, a lot of these will be reevaluated for inclusion into the 2050 RTP. Here's a few new projects that have popped up. And a lot of these were from the South Meadows area transportation study, but some are also just suggestions we have heard. I won't spend a whole lot of time on this, but everyone, please feel free to interrupt at any time if you have any questions. And again, here's some of the recommendations that came out of the university area study that was just adopted by our board last month. And finally, focusing on the North Valleys a little bit, we've been working a bit with the Reno State Airport and the city of Reno looking at what their development plans are, what their needs are for a transportation network, as well as other infrastructure improvements. And these kind of dashed purple lines are what we're calling concepts for discussion. These are some more that we've heard, I would say, more from the general public and some developers as well, just really improving the connectivity up there in the North Valleys. So all of these projects that I just went through combined are kind of what we're considering to date for what we're calling our project alternatives phase of the 2050 RTP. Of course, it's not all about roadways. We certainly would be remiss to not talk about transit, and we're happy to report that the Flex Ride has been pretty successful, even during this COVID time. We were able to, we have plans to expand the Sparks Flex Ride service up into Spanish Springs. I believe North Valleys is up and running now, and we're looking, our board also approved for expansion in Verdi. So you can see those kind of yellow areas in the map that show Flex Ride that is being implemented. And kind of the pink areas are areas that we have heard from the public, as well as others, is where they would like to see transit service. So obviously the RTP is looking at long range, so a 20-year horizon, 20+ year horizon. And so, we're not saying these areas are going to be expanded tomorrow. And, we certainly, it'll be interesting to see kind of the way the future of transit goes. We have been, like I said, successful with the Flex Ride route. So these are maybe other potential areas for that. And looking at intercity, we've been in discussion with folks up in the Tahoe region, just very preliminary, but there's been talks about a route maybe going up Mount Rose up into Incline, and then kind of making a half loop, if you will, down Spooner into Carson City. So just looking more regionally there in terms of our transit connections. And this is a newer concept, and that's really kind of it. So what we're hoping from everyone today is for a little bit of feedback and discussion. If there's any projects that are on your mind, I will say that we have been working closely with City of Reno staff, kind of focusing a little bit on the downtown area and what kind of the vision is for that, and connectivity and how that relates to planned land use there. But as I mentioned, happy to hear any suggestions today. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to staff, and we'll be taking projects for consideration over the next few weeks. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. I think you brought up what my only concern was with regards to the downtown, because I didn't see the downtown circulation study in your presentation. So you addressed my concern. I don't know if anybody else has any additional concerns or questions or projects to add.
I have a question. This is Kevin Berry from NDOT. Dan, what kind of level of information are you looking at requiring if there is a project that we'd like to include into that RTP? I think this is probably my first go around with actually being this involved with your update. So do you guys have like a form? I know Southern Nevada RTC offers somewhat of a form to fill out. The reason why I'm asking is that you'll need that project, and if there's any capacity associated with it, you'll need the line work to model it correctly. So that's my only concern. So if you could address that, that'd be great.
Yeah, Kevin, I think it's a little bit across the board. Obviously, the more detail certainly helps us, get a better idea of what we should be considering. And I know too, we have that survey out there right now, and I haven't really gone through the results to date, but I'm sure we'll get a few pretty localized suggestions, I'm guessing. That's kind of par for the course, maybe it's something like someone wants a stop sign there, but we're thinking more globally, more regionally, and trying to encourage folks to kind of think of connections that way. We don't have a specific form. I would encourage anyone to take the survey if they want. That's the website is projects2050 rtp.metroquest.com, and I can send out that link to the group later. But really, yeah, no specific form or format. Any detail you can provide, and if you want to just reach out, and it's even if it's a discussion with staff, that's we would encourage that as well.
Hey, Dan, I wanted to add something to what Kevin said. So I think I'm guessing the purpose of that form in Southern Nevada is to try to get some facts around the particular request, which I would encourage everybody who has a project or an idea that ultimately there's going to be some vetting, there's going to be some prioritization, there's going to be some decision-making on what is or isn't included. And I think in those cases, it is always hopefully self-evident that the more justification, justification, facts, reasons one would provide other than a person said we need this, it's probably going to be better for us and probably result in a better outcome. So even though we don't have a form like that, I do think if somebody has a project, we would ask that you put some justification in as to why that particular project has value and what it does for the transportation system in a 20-year horizon.
Thank you both.
Does anybody else have any additional comments? All right. It looks like Mike's trying to talk. Nope. All right. Well, I guess we'll just move on to the next item on the agenda. Let me just.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, Jeff, can we get a motion to receive report?
Oh, sure. Can I get a motion to receive the report?
Crystal, Team RPA, so moved.
Second.
Kurt Dietrich, City of Reno, second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Perfect. All right, so we'll move on to item number 6, development updates, which is informational only. Dan, do you have any information on this?
So Jeff, and I apologize that we didn't really have a chance to kind of vet things. I know that this is your first time and you're chairing, so you got a double whammy. But basically, this is just an opportunity for mostly the jurisdictions, City of Reno, Sparks, and Washoe County to just provide an update to the group about any significant developments that they think, you know, it's worth noting or might have some impacts.
So I can tell you of a couple on the City of Reno end. There were 3 abandonments over the last year within the University Gateway area. 2 alleys and 1 a portion of Lake Street was recently just approved by the City Council. The City Council also recently approved the Meridian 120 South development, which is over 600 residential along the south side, and that will have some impacts to the Carson Road interchange. It's been in the works for years, but it was recently just approved by our City Council. So I think those are the 2 big ones that impact regional roads.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. We'll move on to item number 7 for member items. Does anybody have any member items? I guess if we, Dan, do we just go down the list throughout each of the jurisdictions typically?
Yeah, typically just name the jurisdiction and
let
them chime in if they have anything to add.
I think City of Reno member items were what I just mentioned. I saw John and Mike and Kurt on the line, so I don't know if Kurt, if you had anything to add.
Yeah, so just a few updates on the traffic engineering public works side. Earlier, I reported that early in the COVID process, we did pull traffic signals out of coordination into free operation for the exception of the downtown core and interchanges. When Nevada entered the phase 2 reopening, we placed them actually back into operation. So everything, or coordinated operation. So everything now is status quo. The reason for originally pulling it out is we're receiving quite a few complaints about delays on the side streets, and then obviously volumes were down. As far as citizen requests coming into Public Works, we're seeing an uptick in speeding concerns. We have done some spot speed studies around the city, and we have noticed that speeds are generally up. Also speaking with RPD, we've seen an uptick in motorcycle crashes. So RPD is focusing on that specific crash category. We are also working on school zones as well, upgrading the traffic control. City of Reno forces have completed Roy Gom, Swope, and Huffacre, and currently working our way through the list. That's all on my end. Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt. Anything from the Airport Authority?
I have nothing to update. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Anything from the City of Sparks?
No official update. Our stuff is actually very, very much like what Kurt is describing, working with signal timing, with more traffic, not as much traffic, trying to figure out where people are going and when, and also following suit with school zones and speeding complaints as well. And that's it.
Thank you, Amber. Anything for FHWA?
I don't have any updates at this time.
Anything from Washoe County?
This is Mitch Fink with Washoe County. We currently have a new traffic signal that'll be operational probably next week over at Arrow Creek, Thomas Creek. That was in construction with a new middle school. And also a new traffic signal on El Rancho and I think it's Maynard with a construction of a townhome project. And that one is operational as of now. Nothing else.
Mitch, anything from air quality?
Yes, good morning. This is Daniel Inoue with Health District Air Quality Management. Just wanted to highlight an announcement from the governor's office last week. He announced the Clean Cars Nevada initiative, and what that will do will be to review regulations which will give Nevadans more choices for low and zero emission vehicles. So it will be a set of regulations that will be evaluated, and it could, or the timeline on that would be that beginning in 2024, the public will have more choices for low and zero emission vehicles. So we're Health District is very supportive of that. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Do we have anything from NDOT?
Tara, do you want to go first? Or if you don't have anything, let me know.
Sure, Kevin. This is Tara up in District 2. One announcement is the scoping project for the I-80 corridor from Vista to USA Parkway is currently just taking off. Amanda Caligari is a project manager. I know this is just outside the limits of RTC, but still may affect Washoe County and City of Sparks. And for those that are interested in participating in that, please let me know and I can connect you with Amanda. And then anything on your end?
So I just wanted to let everybody know that we are taking our 21 through 24 STIP work program out for public comment starting on hopefully tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. So that's a 30-day window for any comments on the projects we selected for the next 4 years. Those went through a prioritization process. There should be a link up shortly within that same public notice or within the website once you get to the platform, describing at a high level the vetting process we went through to actually have a prioritized step. So we're pretty excited about that. So please feel free to look at that and provide any comment. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin. All right. Anything from regional?
Yes, I got a few items. Chris Tolley, Team RPA. First of all, Team RPA is recruiting a director of regional planning position, and that closes on the 8th. And next, the Truckee Meadows annual report, typically we take forward in the April to June timeframe. That'll actually be going in August to the Regional Planning Commission, and then October to the Regional Planning Governing Board. And then finally, I think I mentioned this last time, the Daybreak appeal. Well, that the decision made by the Regional Planning Commission regarding Daybreak was upheld at the Regional Planning Governing Board's most recent, or the previous meeting. So that concludes what I was updating.
Thanks, Chris. Anything from the school district? Do we have a school district?
Yeah, this is Mike Boster with the
there
Washington
you
County
go.
School District. Yeah, nothing necessarily new to report this month. However, I would mention that depending on how our Board of Trustees rules on how school is going to operate for the 2021 school year starting next month, it's going to have an impact on how many buses, cars we have out on the roads. If it's some kind of a hybrid between kids in class and kids working or doing school from home, it's just all going to depend on how that plays out with our board. Apparently they're going to make a decision on that at least 20 days in advance of the school year starting. So that's going to be pretty soon. Just wanted to mention that we may have a varying impact on the road network in the next or this coming school year.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
And then the Reno Sparks Indian Colony.
We have anyone on?
I don't know. I don't know if it's on or not. Yeah, I don't see. I'm looking through the list. I don't see him on. All right, perfect. Well, I think that'll close that item, and we'll move on to item number 8, which is agenda items for future TAC meetings. Does anybody have any additional items? Dan, do you usually request items from the TAC members? Is that?
Yeah, if anyone has any they'd like to give to me now, or if you think of them later, feel free to contact me personally.
Does anybody have any items? No? Perfect. So we'll close this item since there are no suggested items, and we'll move on to item number 9, which is RTC staff items.
Hi, this is Amy. I don't know if Julie Masterpool is on the call today, but I wanted to make sure everyone knew she is retiring, which we're very sad about. And her last day is going to be next Friday. So I know we can't have a big going away party for her because of COVID, but you've got another week to reach out to her if you would like to. So just wanted to make sure you're all aware.
Jeff, this is Mark Maloney. I just giving you a quick ridership update. As we've seen our ridership go down as much as 62% during this time, but as of last week, we are down only 38%. So we're making progress as I think the world kind of wakes up and ridership comes back to RTC. So I'll just give a quick update on that.
All right. If there are no more RTC staff items, we will move on to public comment, item number 10. Do we have any more public comment, Dan, that came in after the first one?
No, that was it.
Perfect. So we'll close public comment. We'll move on to item number 11, adjournment. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
Chris Tolley, Team RPA, so moved.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Amber Sosal, second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. All right, so we're adjourned, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
I made it
Thanks,
through my
Amber.
first meeting without dying.
Thanks, Jeff. You did a great job.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.